Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome Santosh star Shahana Goswami. Ms. Goswami is an actor whose work has made a lasting impact on both Indian and international cinema. From Rock On to Firak, Midnight's Children's, Vigato, and now Santosh, her career has been defined by versatility, depth, and fearless storytelling. Whether portraying emotionally complex characters or bringing socially relevant narratives to life, Shahana continues to challenge conventions and captivate audiences. So let's get on with our Q&A session. And maybe Shahana can speak a few words about what makes this film very special for her. I guess this film is about the very heart of morality. And I'm sure all of you have a lot of questions also.
Thank you, Suruchi. What some of you may not know is that I started my career with Suruchi. My first ever play was with Suruchi. So that was very much a part of my initial phase working with wonderful people that guided and helped me. Santosh, I mean, for me I think as an actor, when you come across a script that is, for me, I read a script as a film. You know, I mean, I see the film, and is it a film I'd like to watch? And when I read it, I just felt that it was my kind of storytelling, where there is so much nuancing and depth and empathy without feeling the need to constantly attribute blame, but to showcase things that are playing out in the world around us and within us, with a lot of sensitivity and observation. And I think that that runs across the entirety of the film and all the characters. And Santosh is just the sutradhar, as we say, or the kind of the one showing you through the story, while also participating in it, while reacting to it, responding to it. But I really liked it as a storytelling. I thought it was a very well written script and a really well intentioned storytelling.
Do you think she should have remained a cop? A good cop in a bad system can make a lot of difference.
Well, that's the thing. It's a hard thing to do. You know, I think we were talking. I was talking about this earlier. Like one person or systemic change needs collectives. Maybe we needed many more Santoshes to kind of. We needed Sharma to also be different. We needed a lot more people to come into to shift things around. But yeah, I think I enjoyed the little romantic or romanticized ending of the film that still left it with an idea of hope in humanity and love at the end of it in some way. And yeah, that was Sandhya's tribute to keeping it hopeful and having a sense of her going to Bombay, which was meant to be the place that these lovers were to go. And
Well, questions, observations, what you're left with, anything's welcome.
I also know it's very late and I appreciate everybody staying back. So thank you.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about the process of filmmaking? Because it felt like, you know, you were in an atmosphere around people where they didn't really know that you were being filmed. And, you know, it was such a, you could feel like somehow the camera was just observing you so deeply. And, you know, you were very much like engrossed in the public. And there was so much of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a mix of both actually, and there was there were places where we had large crowds that were participating in the scene. They were of course extras that were guided according to the scene. But then there are the long shots of me walking through spaces, and that's all in real locations and usually with a telelens, as you would know, Shreya, since we have a cinematographer in the house. And so there was a mix of it. But I think Leonard, our cinematographer, he did a fantastic job along with Sandhya in terms of ideating the look of the film. And there was a lot of this idea of creating a sense of people, but then focusing on the one observing and her observation, and that being done through the close-ups of the person. But it wasn't always a situation um, where I was in a live crowd. But something about just that space and that milieu anyway adds to it, because Sandhya was also particular about choosing the people that would come on screen, the extras, everybody. She wanted there to be this kind of quality of rawness and realness. A lot of the actors in the film are also have never faced the camera before. She met them when she went recceing and finding the spots and speaking to people, and ended up finding interesting faces, interesting people, and ended up workshopping them to kind of then act in front of the camera. So, but yeah, I think it was a mix of. When I watch it now, I also realize that I don't think even though I always know what lens is on and everything, but I don't think I realized how much of close-ups there were. I felt like I felt like there was more zoomed out perspective, but the mix. I think that's also the editing and the way it was shot, but eventually the choices that were made in the edit that's created the film. The film was 3 hours long in the original director's cut, and now it's 2 hours, so you can see how much has been trimmed down.
Tell me something, Shahana. Did the director tell you exactly how this screen will play, or was that something you brought yourself to it? Like you said something about close-ups. मुझे पता नहीं थे कितने close-ups थे. Did you at any point feel like doing more, and did she ever tell you that come kar le, or something like that? Because I felt it was amazing.
No, I usually have the tendency to go the opposite way, but
less.
Yeah, but she did. She would. I mean, of course, there are moments when you may not realize. But actually, when I'm not talking, I will always do less, which is why I prefer doing non-dialogue parts. I feel I'm more effective as a communicator. I feel like dialogue stuff sometimes, for me, can become confusing. But I think this was something that got made on the way. I don't think Sandhya and I didn't have a discussion about the fact that she's supposed to be subtle or quiet. But I think it was just sometimes you read something and you just know that that's how the person is. She was also very sure that she didn't want Santosh. Like the one thing that she said is Santosh is not a oppressed, suppressed, downtrodden girl in any way. She is feisty. We don't know, like, I love that Sandhya used to say this, that we don't know that what her in-laws say about her, whether that was true or not. We only see her at a certain point in her life. She has a certain hunger for life. She has a certain ambition. She, even in the moments when she, agrees to take the job because she sees opportunity in it, So there is a certain sharpness to her as well. She's not this like lost in the woods kind of girl. But yeah, I think that specific thing of the observation and the reaction, when you know that a scene is playing out so many layers as just a human being, you read a scene and you're like, oh, you know exactly what this look and what you're observing is supposed to imply. It'll come anyway. It just happens automatically. And the other thing that I keep saying is, for all the appreciation for my face and my expression, which I'm not taking away from, but what I do realize when I watch it also is that that's the beauty of filmmaking and editing, that what you see before my reaction and after my reaction in terms of the frame and what she's observing gives meaning to the expression on my face as well. If it was just you watching Santosh's face throughout with no context, then it would have been different. So the context is also allowing for you to read her expressions better.
You could see that life that you're talking about, the brief, that she has that in her. She's not oppressed. Yeah. And you did it with such restraint. I thought you nailed it. That was amazing.
Great. Great tips also for budding actors. I think that was just a mini class in how to be a better actor for screen. We had a question up there. Yes? You think your voice can reach us, or you want a mic?
Yes, we can.
Just two questions. One is, playing police stations and to see how it was and what was your experience like. And secondly is there's a lot of casteism in this, and I believe the movie was shot somewhere in Lucknow.
Outskirts of Lucknow, yes.
Lucknow, and did you get to see or witness anything in that area yourself about casteism there?
Interesting question. Actually, to answer that first, because now when I'm thinking back from the top of my head, I didn't experience it. But one thing is that a film set is a very unique space where you're working together as a team in a way where you have less likelihood of seeing it. And outside of filming, there was very little interaction with the outside world in that period. So that was a bit, I would say, in my experience, I didn't end up seeing that playing out around me. But yes, we did have an opportunity, both Sunita and I, with Sandhya, to visit and meet some of the cop stations in the smaller in the area that she had envisioned the story, or the people that she had access to. And it was also for us to get an idea of just what their daily routine is like, because I say this often, that when we think of cops or surgeons or certain kind of professions that we don't have access to, there's a kind of over glorifying it and a kind of feeling that it's constantly going to be this self-righteous kind of way of being. But for people who it's their everyday job, their way of operating, moving and being is very different in that space. And it was good to be able to see that, because I have only grown up watching cops in films, or in and female cops almost none. I mean, I had a friend whose mother was but she was a high level cop. So I didn't really have any real life experience. So it was nice to be able to see them go about doing their daily activities in a thana, in the police station, to see how they interact with each other in that space, what are the activities that they're likely to do daily, and just get a feel of their being. They're all, each of them are different, but just seeing them in their workspace helped, yes.
Yes?
Firstly, absolutely amazing. It was brilliant. The acting, absolutely lovely. Um, Two things out here. One was an observation and a furtherance to the cinematography. The scene where the sun is setting in the background towards the end, and you're just, you've kept the earrings, and you're sitting out there. Just those emotions that you portrayed were excellent. The first time you went to eat at that cop's house, not probably eat, but you were at that cop's house, and that frame that's close up on his head, and that's like amazing cinematography throughout. It's lovely. I wanted to ask you a question regarding that scene where the boy actually gets killed, and when you had that pent up emotion in you. I wanted to ask you, what were your feelings at that time? What was the brief given to you? Did you get any space to explore it, because it wasn't overdone? I mean, that's what I view as a audience. You could have just like gone all out, but it was like sorry bowl, and I want to understand what is going on in your mind. What was the brief given to you? How did you get that space to explore? What was the conversation that you had?
So Sandhya and I, and then Sandhya, Sunita and I, for all the scenes that we were all in together, we had a lot of detailed discussion on every scene, and kind of digging for more nuance, digging for more meaning, for um, motivations, for what the layers of emotions that will be playing out in each character. So there was a lot of discussion around those aspects. And that scene, as it is in the film, is just a slight tad bit different from how we shot it in terms of in the edit, but largely it was the same. And it was a scene that I was nervous about only because it's a very iconic scene for the script as well, and for the character. And I do have uh, as a person, I have a very visceral reaction against aggression, physical aggression. So I didn't know how I would be in that space. But of course, the process of filmmaking, what I keep telling people, if you guys ever come on a film set, you'll see that it's the most bizarre way of being, because when you're watching a film, you feel like you're in a flow, but when you're shooting a scene, you know, you're breaking for lunch in the middle of doing things. You're having a like you're talking to somebody. You're coordinating your life. There's lots going on. You're constantly compartmentalizing your emotions. Actually, you compartmentalize the time that you spend in front of camera. So, but you have to switch off also in between to take directions, to understand what's happening. So, to tweak things, to make adjustments. So that particular day, the way the scene played out, actually initially there was chaos because there was a jagran happening. Jagran is when there's like all night music playing for a festivity, and we didn't know if we would be able to shoot. And then at some point it quieted down, so it reduced the time we had to shoot as well. And then some idea was there. Also, the cinematography there was very important in terms of, and these are also things that came about. Some of it came about organically in the moment, like the movement that Leonard does. Leonard is also an extremely tall man. He's 7 feet 2 inches or something, and I'm 5'4". You know, so he was moving with my motion, and throughout the film, it's completely handheld. So a lot of things also came out of these things, and the choice of how it's lit, the fact that you don't see Santosh's face fully frontal through certain things. It helps that, of course, you're using a foam thing, and you know that it's not hurting the person you're doing it to. But I think it was just it was a combination of knowing that we didn't want it to ever become too much in terms of it seeming too much of a act of violence, but that also let it develop and let things come out. Like the fact that it ends up being a catharsis for her that she doesn't realize. She starts off by trying to stand up for the misogyny she thinks is being played out, and stand up for her mentor's authority. And then it ends up, while in the act of her being in it, it ends up being her own catharsis and her own hatred coming out and her own prejudices coming out. So yeah, and there is something to, I suppose, I mean, yes, you're using a foam belt, but there is something to that kind of act that does do something to you as well, and whatever comes out comes out. So I think we just kind of improvised and found whatever was, and we I think we may have done, we didn't do too many takes of it either. Like there was a kind of judicial use of of everybody's energy, including Leonard, who was, it was not an easy movement for him at all. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Can you hear me? Yeah. The film has plenty of layers of problems that are conveyed through different, like there's power, there's class, there's feminism. So as an actor, from your perspective, what was there a concept that maybe overpowered the whole story, or was it more of a personal exploration of Santosh, or was it more about the social issues around her? What, as an actor, what was your perspective to this story and the issues portrayed here?
I always saw it as a larger story about society and the world around, and human behavior and human interaction. And in terms of themes, yes, I do feel that the overriding theme is power, and how power ends up being responded to and corrupting or creating or shifts and changes in different dynamic. Power in caste, power in politics, I mean in gender, in power at the workplace, but it's always something playing out with the power dynamic, and how power dynamics also keep shifting. And when power dynamics shift, then things start shifting in that reality as well. So that was what I also found interesting, that it was this kind of overarching theme of power. And yeah, for me it was not, Santosh is a medium to like I said, to observe the reality around, but also she becomes the canvas to observe an inner reality of someone who's experiencing something firsthand and becoming a part of it.
Yes?
Yes.
So, as the actor who played the part, what do you think her relationship with jewelry is like? Is she holding on to it as a tangible form of grief? Is she looking at it from like a feminine lens? You know, like since the beginning when her in-laws on her, and then she also takes over Devka's earrings till she finds that closure, right? And in the end, when she again gives her nose pin away to the girl at the station. Like, I just wanted to know your take on it.
That's interesting. I didn't, yeah. I do know that Sandhya did want her to be somebody who enjoyed dressing up. That was Santosh as a character before. Of course, you see less of it in this post grieving police world of hers, but that's why the first scene she looks the way she does, or even after. Uh, and but besides that, yeah, there is this theme of jewelry obviously that's there, and there's also this constant exchanging of jewelry. um, but you know, I think personally for me, I felt that the first, let's say, her taking off of the more ornate piece of jewelry was perhaps uh, more also to do with the necessity of her reality at that point, and underlining perhaps of her own grief to the world. And then of course you have somebody who comes and empowers her, and in an act of lovingness and pride almost gives a nose pin, who then seemingly is a mentor but isn't. And so that giving away for me is more that this doesn't have any value, because neither, I mean, because it's given by somebody who does not hold the same meaning and has kind of fallen in her eyes in some sense, and that this would actually be beneficial to somebody else. Of course, there's the earrings of Devika. That I feel is, again, Devika becomes a parallel to her processing her own her own husband's death, and which is why even the choice of keeping the earrings next to his picture to kind of give that, and it's also an act of giving her some sort of grace in her death. Uh, but yeah, I don't know if that was Sandhya's design in terms of all the different. I should ask her that if that was part of her design or not. The different aspects of the jewelry.
I was just thinking, Shahana, about what you were telling me about the movie and the trouble it's run into. And maybe this is almost a historic screening of it because each one of you has been part of this, and I don't know how many more times it's going to be screened. Do you think you can talk about that? I don't know whether it's allowed or not.
I think it. I mean, they will probably have some sort of a official announcement of it. But as it stands right now, which I think my producer spoke about even in Hong Kong, so I think it should be fine. Which is that it's with the censor board, and the censor board has given certain cuts and certain changes to the film, which on discussion and contemplation within the team, we feel that it changes the film too much, and it's not our desire to put the film out there in that way. So, which means that the film cannot have a theatrical release, and it could still possibly have an OTT release, but in my own personal understanding, once something is difficult for the censor boards, people are often hesitant to take on even on the OTT platform. So, yeah, it is likely or possible that this film will not be shown in India, sadly. So, which is why screenings like this, yes, become important, because it's an opportunity for people to watch it definitely on the big screen, and perhaps just watch it in general. Otherwise, you can go to other countries and watch it perhaps on streaming platforms. I mean, it's releasing in different parts of India. I mean, in different parts of the world. Right now, it just released in the UK and in Ireland, and it's had a US release. It's had a France release. I think there's a Spanish, Swiss release. There's they're supposed to release, I think maybe even in Hong Kong. I'm not sure, but there are releases planned across the world. But India at this moment theatrically is not going to happen.
Well, that just makes it really, really precious. And I hope each one of us goes home with that. And also a little bit of the story in us and the strength to tell these stories and not just the happy, sunny ones, you know. Thank you, Shahana, for being
Thank
here.
you,
And thank you,
Suruchi.
everybody.
This is so special.